The question that changes everything. Pause. And imagine this for a moment. What if money was no object? What if tomorrow you woke up and all the bills, all the rent, all the debts, all the invisible weights you've been carrying were gone? What if the numbers in your bank account were no longer the reason you get out of bed? We are taught from the very beginning, in school, in the quiet warnings of our parents, and in the constant hum of society, that money is the ultimate measure of security, success, and worth. But have you ever stopped, truly stopped, to ask yourself, if I didn't have to worry about earning a living, what would I do with my life? It's a dangerous question, not because it leads to harm, but because it leads to freedom. And freedom, my dear friends, is terrifying to those who have lived their lives in cages. I remember speaking to a group of students once. I asked them, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" Some said they wanted to be painters. Others wanted to write books. One young man wanted to live in the mountains, tending a small farm. And I asked, "Why don't you?" The answers were always the same. "Well, I have to make a living," or "It's not practical," or "I'll never earn enough doing that." Do you see the tragedy? We start with a dream, a real dream, something that stirs the soul. But before it can breathe, before it can even learn to walk, we strangle it with a thin rope of practicality. Here's the truth. If you say you are in pursuit of security before you pursue your passion, you will end up with neither. Because security, in the way society sells it, is a mirage. Jobs disappear, markets collapse, fortunes vanish. And if your life's meaning is tied to something so fragile, what happens when it's gone? Let's turn the question around. What if instead of asking, "How can I make money?" we asked, "What makes me come alive?" Because you see, when you are doing something you truly love, something that lights up the soul, you enter a different kind of economy. The currency there is not coins or bills. It is energy, creativity, joy. And here's the beautiful secret. Those things are far more valuable in the long run. You may say, "But Alan, that's a luxury only the rich can afford." But you are wrong. It is not about having a fortune first. It is about rethinking what you truly need. If money is no object, then the real wealth is your time, your attention, your presence. It's not the size of the house you live in. It's whether you wake up in the morning glad to be alive in it. Most of us have been conditioned to trade the best hours of our lives for a paycheck. We sell our daylight and keep the scraps of evening for ourselves. We forget that time is the one currency you can never earn back. And so I say, if money was no object, you would choose differently. You would not simply drift into the job market like a leaf in the current. You would dive into what you love. Of course, there will be those who laugh. They will say, "That's not how the real world works." And perhaps in their world, it does not. But you have the choice to live in a different one. It begins with honesty. Not the kind of honesty that is polite and acceptable, but the kind of honesty that whispers in the dark at 3 in the morning, "This is not the life I want." If you have heard that whisper, then you have already begun. You see, when I ask, "What if money was no object?" I am not asking about money at all. I am asking if you have the courage to live your own life, instead of the one that was prescribed for you. And that is where our journey begins. The question that changes everything. Pause and imagine this for a moment. What if money was no object? What if tomorrow you woke up and all the bills, all the rent, all the debts, all the invisible weights you've been carrying were gone? What if the numbers in your bank account were no longer the reason you get out of bed? We are taught from the very beginning, in school, in the quiet warnings of our parents, and in the constant hum of society, that money is the ultimate measure of security, success, and worth. But have you ever stopped, truly stopped, to ask yourself, if I didn't have to worry about earning a living, what would I do with my life? It's a dangerous question, not because it leads to harm, but because it leads to freedom. And freedom, my dear friends, is terrifying to those who have lived their lives in cages. I remember speaking to a group of students once. I asked them, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" Some said they wanted to be painters. Others wanted to write books. One young man wanted to live in the mountains, tending a small farm. And I asked, "Why don't you?" The answers were always the same. "Well, I have to make a living," or "It's not practical," or "I'll never earn enough doing that." 2. The greatest trick society ever played was convincing you that security comes from money. We are told over and over again that if you save enough, invest enough, work long enough, you will finally arrive at a place where nothing can harm you, a fortress, a safe haven. But look closely, and you will see that this fortress has cracks in its walls. Markets crash, currencies lose value, jobs, even the most stable ones, vanish overnight. Ask anyone who thought their job was untouchable in the year before a recession. Ask the man who worked 30 years for a company only to be told one Friday afternoon that he was no longer needed. Ask the family who thought their savings were enough until illness came knocking. You see, real security has nothing to do with numbers on a bank statement. Real security is the ability to adapt, to create, to stand on your own 2 feet no matter what happens. A man who has learned to rely on his own creativity, his own skills, his own mind, is richer than the one with $1 million who is terrified of losing it. But here is the problem. We have been educated not in the art of living, but in the art of earning. From the time we are children, we are told to prepare for the real world, as if the years we are living now are somehow fake. We are trained to fit into a system designed for efficiency, not fulfillment. We measure success not by joy, but by output, not by the depth of our days, but by the size of our paycheck. And so the illusion deepens. We spend decades chasing the mirage of enough, only to find that the desert keeps stretching out before us. Let me ask you this. How many people do you know who say, "Once I reach this amount, I'll be happy," only to raise the amount the moment they get there? It is like running on a treadmill. You sweat, you strain, you exhaust yourself, and yet you are standing in the same place. The truth is, you cannot buy enough to fill the emptiness of a life unlived. You cannot purchase meaning. You cannot trade currency for peace of mind. And so when I say, "What if money was no object?" I am inviting you to step off that treadmill, to question whether the path you are on leads anywhere worth going. Security is not something you earn. It is something you feel, and it comes not from possession, but from purpose. A man who knows why he is alive can walk into uncertainty with a steady heart. He does not need guarantees, because his life is not built on the shifting sand of circumstance. But here is the paradox. When you stop living for money alone, when you begin to follow what truly matters, you often find that money flows to you more easily. Why? Because you have tapped into energy. You have stopped working against yourself. You have begun to do something that aligns with your nature. And in that alignment, there is power. It is the difference between rowing against the current and sailing with the wind. Both will move you, but only one will carry you with ease. Still, you may resist. You may say, "But Alan, I hear responsibilities, I have a family, I have obligations, and I do not dismiss these. But I will tell you this, the greatest gift you can give those you love is your own aliveness. What good is providing for your family if, in the process, you become a ghost of yourself? If your children grow up knowing you only as a tired, distracted provider, and not as a vibrant human being? Life is not a rehearsal. This is it. And if you spend it chasing only the numbers, you will find that you have built a very comfortable cage. So let us break the illusion. Let us see that security does not come from the balance in your account, but from the balance in your soul. Because when you finally understand that, when you stop measuring your life in dollars, you begin to measure it in something far richer, in mornings where you wake without dread, in work that feels like play, in love, in laughter, in the quiet moments that cannot be bought or sold. That, my friends, is security.